The knife caught Clara across the shoulder as she threw herself between Silas and her daughter. Blood sprayed across the snow. Lily screamed the first sound she'd made in 6 months, and Clara shoved her toward the tree line. "Run, baby, don't stop." She didn't look back to see if Lily obeyed. Couldn't look back. Silas was already swinging again, that hunting knife gleaming red in the moonlight. Clara ducked, grabbed a rock, smashed it into his face with every ounce of strength her starving body possessed. Silas stumbled, cursed. Blood poured from his shattered nose. Clara ran. "You can't hide from God's will, Clara." Ezekiel's voice echoed across the frozen Wyoming wilderness. "She belongs to the covenant." 3 days running. 3 days bleeding. 3 days praying for a miracle she no longer believed in. Then she saw it through the blizzard, a light. A farmhouse. A chance. Before we continue Clara's desperate journey, I invite you to subscribe and follow this story to the very end. Leave a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I want to see how far across the world this tale of survival and redemption will travel. Clara's blood had frozen to her dress by the time she reached the fence line. "Mama!" Lily's voice was raw from that single scream. "Mama, I can't feel my feet." "I know, baby, I know." Clara gripped her daughter's hand tighter. "See that light? We're almost there." "What if they're bad people too?" Clara didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because the truth was she had no idea what waited in that farmhouse. Could be salvation. Could be another trap. But the blood was still seeping through her makeshift bandage, and Lily's lips had turned blue, and somewhere behind them, Silas was hunting with that knife and those dead eyes. No choice. No choice at all. "Stay behind me," Clara whispered. "If anything happens, you run. You hear me? You run, and you don't stop. I won't leave you." Lily. I won't. 8 years old. Stubborn as her father. Samuel would have been proud. Samuel would have been alive if she'd run sooner. Clara pushed that thought down deep and kept walking.
Come at me.
The farmhouse sat alone against the darkness. Smoke curled from the chimney. A single light burned in the window. Then the front door opened. Clara yanked Lily behind her, one hand fumbling for the rock she'd shoved in her pocket. Pitiful weapon. But it was all she had. A man stepped onto the porch. Tall, broad-shouldered, rifle in his hands. "That's close enough." His voice cut through the wind like a blade, deep, cold. The voice of a man who'd forgotten how to be gentle. Clara stopped. Lily pressed against her back, trembling. "Please." The words scraped Clara's throat raw. "Please, we need help." "Lots of people need help. Ain't my concern." "My daughter, she's freezing." "Then find somewhere else to warm her." Clara's legs buckled. She caught herself on the fence post, splinters biting into her palm. The world swam, tilted. "Mama!" Lily grabbed her arm. "Mama, you're bleeding again." The man on the porch didn't move. Clara looked up at him. This stranger with his cold eyes and colder voice, and made a decision. Pride be damned. Dignity be damned. Everything be damned except keeping her daughter alive. She dropped to her knees in the snow. "I am begging you." Tears froze on her cheeks as they fell. "Kill me if you want. Turn me away. But please, please let my daughter stay the night. She's 8 years old. She hasn't eaten in 2 days. She watched her father die. Please, I will do anything. Anything." Silence. The wind howled. Snow swirled between them like a curtain. Then, "Get up." Clara's head snapped up. The man had lowered his rifle. His expression hadn't changed, still hard, still closed, but something in his stance had shifted. "I said get up. Can't carry you both, and your girl ain't big enough to drag you. You'll help us. I'll let you in." He turned toward the door. Helping is a different conversation. His name was Caleb McAllister, and he'd been a doctor once. Clara learned this while he cut away her blood-soaked dress, his movements clinical, detached, like she was livestock instead of a woman. "Hold still." I'm trying. Try harder. Needles going in. No warning, no gentleness. Just the sharp bite of steel through flesh, and Clara's teeth clamping down on her own arm to keep from screaming. Lily sat in the corner watching. She hadn't spoken since they'd entered the house. That brief burst of words outside had cost her something, and now she'd retreated behind her walls again. She clutched Daisy to her chest, the ragdoll Samuel had given her the night everything changed. "Keep Daisy safe," he'd whispered, blood bubbling on his lips. "And Daisy will keep you safe." Lies. Pretty lies from a dying man. But Lily held on anyway. "Your husband do this." Caleb's voice broke through Clara's haze of pain. "What?" He nodded at her shoulder. At the knife wound. At the older scars beneath it, scars she'd hoped were hidden. "No," Clara hissed as the needle pierced again. "My husband is dead." "Then who? Does it matter?" "Matters if they're coming here." Clara met his eyes. Gray. Hard. Unreadable. "They're coming. They're always coming." Caleb's hands didn't falter. He tied off the last stitch, reached for clean bandages. How many? 4, maybe 5. Armed? Yes. And they want what you? The girl. Clara's throat closed. She glanced at Lily, still silent in the corner, still clutching that ruined doll like a lifeline. Both. They want us both. Caleb finished bandaging her shoulder without another word. He moved to the stove, started cracking eggs into a pan. The smell hit Clara like a physical blow. Food, real food, after days of nothing but melted snow and the bitter roots she'd dug from frozen ground. "Lily." Caleb didn't turn around. "You eat eggs?" No response. Girl's mute. She speaks when she wants to. Clara pushed herself upright, fighting the dizziness. She just doesn't want to much anymore. Caleb divided the eggs onto 2 plates, added strips of bacon, carried them to the table. "She eat, though, when there's food." "Yes." "Then get her over here." Clara hesitated. This man, this cold, hard, unfriendly man, why was he feeding them? What did he want in return? In her experience, men didn't give without expecting to take. "What's the price?" she asked. Caleb paused, plate in hand. "What?" "For the food, the shelter, the stitches." Clara forced herself to meet his eyes. "What do you want from us?" Something flickered in those gray depths. Surprise, maybe. Or something darker. "You think I want payment?" "I think men always want payment." Caleb set the plate down slowly. His jaw tightened. "Eat the food, Mrs. Whitmore. Clara Whitmore. Eat the food, Mrs. Whitmore. Feed your daughter. Rest." He turned back to the stove. "Price is you're gone by morning. That's all." Clara didn't believe him. Couldn't believe him. But Lily had already crept to the table, drawn by the smell, despite her fear. And when the child took her first bite, when her eyes closed in something like relief, Clara decided that whatever payment came due, it was worth it. Just to see her daughter eat again. Lily fell asleep at the table, face pressed against the worn wood Daisy still clutched in her arms. Caleb lifted her without being asked, carried her to the bed like she weighed nothing. She always sleep this hard? No. Clara watched him settle Lily under the quilts, his movements unexpectedly gentle. Nightmares keep her up most nights? About what? Her father's death. She saw it happen. Caleb straightened. His hand moved to his chest, fingers brushing something beneath his shirt. How'd he die? Clara's throat burned. They called it an accident. Said he fell, hit his head. But I know what a knife wound looks like. Clara's voice cracked. I know what murder looks like. Silence stretched between them. Caleb pulled a chair close to the bed, sat down with his back to the wall and his rifle across his knees. Get some sleep. I can't. Wasn't asking. He checked something in his pocket, a watch she realized old and worn, then settled deeper into the chair. Anyone comes through that door tonight, they come through me first. Why? The question escaped before Clara could stop it. She was exhausted, bleeding, terrified, and this stranger's kindness made no sense. Made her suspicious and grateful in equal measure. Caleb was quiet for a long moment. Got ghosts, he said finally. They don't rest easy. Figure maybe if I help someone else's family mine might forgive me. Forgive you for what? But he'd closed his eyes. Conversation over. Clara lay down beside Lily, her wounded shoulder throbbing, her mind racing. She should stay awake, should keep watch, should be ready to grab her daughter and run at the first sign of danger. Instead, she slept, deep, dreamless, safe, for the first time in 6 months. Sir, she woke to voices, low, urgent, male. Clara's hand closed around the knife she'd hidden under the pillow, the same knife Caleb had used to cut her dress. He hadn't asked for it back. Hadn't even noticed when she'd palmed it. Or maybe he had noticed. Maybe he'd wanted her armed. Asking questions all over town, 4 of them like you said. That was Caleb. And someone else. Someone new. Clara eased out of bed, leaving Lily sleeping. She crept toward the main room, knife ready. The leader's an older fellow. Silver hair. Eyes like a snake. The new voice was gruff-weathered. Calls himself Reverend Crane. Says he's looking for his daughter-in-law and granddaughter. Says they're lost, confused, need to be brought home. Clara's blood turned to ice. She pressed her back against the wall, heart slamming against her ribs. And folks believe him? Caleb asked. Some do. Man's got a way about him. Talks smooth. Quotes scripture like he wrote it himself. A pause. But I've seen his type before. Had one in my town years back. Sweet words and dead eyes. What happened to him? I shot him. The voice carried no regret. After he killed my wife. Silence. Then Caleb. You got a name, mister. Dawson. Henry Dawson. I'm sheriff over in Silver Creek. A chair scraped. And I've been waiting 3 years for someone to help me bring that snake down. Clara stepped into the doorway. Both men turned. Caleb's hand moved toward his rifle, then stopped when he recognized her. The other man, Dawson, was older, weathered with a star pinned to his chest, and eyes that had seen too much. Mrs. Whitmore. Caleb's voice was flat. You should be resting. I heard. Clara's grip tightened on the knife. I heard what he said. About Ezekiel. About easy. Dawson raised both hands, showing he was unarmed. I ain't here to hurt you, ma'am. Opposite, in fact. How did you find us? Wasn't looking for you specifically. Was looking for McAllister. Dawson glanced at Caleb. Heard rumors about a hermit doctor living out past the ridge. Figured anyone hiding that hard might have reasons to hate the same people I hate. And do I? Caleb asked. Dawson reached into his coat, pulled out a folded paper. Old. Yellowed. He handed it to Caleb. Recognize the name. Clara watched Caleb unfold the paper. Watched the color drain from his face. Where did you get this? Found it in the preacher's things, 3 years ago when I was still pretending to play nice. Dawson's jaw tightened. My daughter joined his flock. Martha. 20 years old. Believed every lie he told her. What happened to her? She's still there, still believing. Pain flickered across the old lawman's face. I've been building a case ever since, gathering evidence, waiting for the right moment. Caleb stared at the paper. His hand trembled slightly, the first weakness Clara had seen in him. This letter is addressed to my brother, he said quietly. Thomas McAllister. He died 6 years ago. Did he? Dawson's voice sharpened. You sure about that? Caleb's head snapped up. What the hell does that mean? Means I've got a man in Crane's compound. A man who goes by Gabriel. Man who looks an awful lot like that daguerreotype you've got on your mantle. Clara followed Dawson's gesture. A small photograph sat on the shelf above the fireplace. Two young men in union uniforms, arms around each other, smiling. One was clearly Caleb, younger and less weathered. The other. "That's impossible," Caleb breathed. "Thomas is dead. I buried him." "You buried a body," Dawson corrected. "Question is, whose body was it?" The words hung in the air like gunsmoke. Clara watched Caleb's face transform, shock, giving way to something rawer. Hope, maybe, or fear, or both tangled together until neither could be separated. "You're saying my brother's alive?" "I'm saying there's a man in that compound who looks like him, acts like him, who flinched when I mentioned the name McAllister." Dawson leaned forward. "I'm saying Thomas might have faked his death to escape something, or someone." "Thomas wouldn't." Caleb stopped, swallowed hard. "He wouldn't let me believe he was dead for 6 years. He wouldn't do that to me." "Unless he was protecting you." "From what?" Dawson nodded toward Clara. "From them. From Crane and his people. From whatever your brother got himself tangled up in." Clara's mind raced. She remembered the stories Samuel had told her before his father had twisted him into something unrecognizable. Stories about the early days of the Covenant. About the founding members. "There was someone," she said slowly. "Before I joined, Samuel mentioned him once. A man who questioned Ezekiel's teachings. Who tried to leave." Both men turned to her. "What happened to him?" Caleb demanded. "Ezekiel said he died. Said God struck him down for his faithlessness." Clara met Caleb's eyes. "But Samuel said it different when he was drunk. Said the man didn't die. Said Ezekiel gave him a choice: stay and serve or watch his family burn." Caleb went white. "His family." "That's what Samuel said." Clara's voice softened. "I didn't know what it meant then. Didn't know who the man was. But if your brother, if Thomas, he joined to protect me." The words came out broken. "Son of a bitch. He let me think he was dead so Ezekiel wouldn't come after me." "That's my guess," Dawson said quietly. "And it's why I'm here, McAllister. Not just for my daughter, not just for the women and children trapped in that compound, but for your brother. For everyone who deserves a chance to get free." Caleb stood abruptly. His chair crashed backward. "I need—" He stopped, started again. "I need air." He grabbed his coat. His hat yanked open the door. Cold rushed in, sharp and biting. "Caleb!" Clara's voice stopped him at the threshold. "Whatever you're thinking, don't do it alone. Please." He didn't turn around. "I've been alone for 6 years, Mrs. Whitmore. It's the only way I know how to be." The door slammed shut behind him. Lily appeared in the bedroom doorway. Clara hadn't heard her wake, but there she was, small and solemn. Daisy clutched to her chest, those two old eyes fixed on the door Caleb had just vanished through. "He's hurting," Lily said softly. It was the most she'd spoken in months. Clara knelt down, brushing hair from her daughter's face. "Yes, baby. He's hurting very much. Like us." "Yes, like us." Lily was quiet for a moment. Then, "We should help him." "Help him how? I don't know yet." Lily's fingers tightened on Daisy's worn fabric. "But Daddy said we're supposed to help people who hurt, even when we're hurting too, especially then." Clara's throat closed, Samuel's words coming from their daughter's mouth. Samuel's heart still beating in this child he'd died trying to protect. "Your daddy was right," Clara managed. "He was right about a lot of things." "Not everything." "No, not everything." Clara pulled Lily close, breathed in the scent of her hair. "But the important things, the things that matter." Sheriff Dawson cleared his throat. "Ma'am, I hate to interrupt, but we've got maybe a day, 2 at most before Crane's people track you here. And if McAllister's going to do something stupid, which from the look on his face he definitely is, we need a plan." Clara released Lily, stood to face the lawman. "What kind of plan? The kind that ends with Crane in chains or in the ground?" Dawson's eyes were hard. I ain't particular about which. Caleb came back an hour later. Snow crusted his shoulders, his hat, his beard. His eyes were red-rimmed, but dry. Whatever storm had driven him outside, he'd weathered it alone. He stopped just inside the door, taking in the scene, Clara at the table with paper and pencil, Dawson marking positions on a rough map, Lily in the corner drawing something with intense concentration. "What's this?" "Planning," Clara said simply. "Planning what? How to get your brother out, how to free the others, how to stop Ezekiel." She met his eyes without flinching. "How to end this?" "You don't even know these people." "I know enough." Clara stood closing the distance between them. "I know your brother gave up his life to protect you. I know Sheriff Dawson's daughter is trapped in that compound. I know there are women and children being hurt every day while Ezekiel plays God. And you want to storm the gates, 3 adults and a child against a fortified compound. I want to fight." Clara's voice hardened. "I spent 6 years being quiet, being obedient, being good. And it got my husband killed, and my daughter broken, and me running for my life through a Wyoming blizzard." She stepped closer. Close enough to see the gold flecks in his gray eyes, the tension in his jaw. "I'm done running, Caleb. Done hiding. Done being afraid." Her chin lifted. "If you won't help me, I'll do it myself. But I'd rather have you beside me." The silence stretched. Dawson watched them both, saying nothing. Lily kept drawing her pencil, scratching steadily against the paper. Then Caleb did something unexpected. He laughed. It was rusty, unpracticed, the laugh of a man who'd forgotten how. But it was real. "You always this stubborn?" "Always." "Bet your husband loved that." "He did." Clara's voice softened. "Before Ezekiel took him away from me." Caleb's laughter faded. Something else replaced it, something warmer, closer to admiration. "All right, Mrs. Whitmore. You want to fight?" He shrugged off his snow-covered coat, tossed it over a chair. "Let's fight." They planned through the night. Dawson knew the compound's layout. 3 years of careful observation had given him that much. 2 main buildings, a dozen smaller structures. Guards posted at all hours. Ezekiel's personal quarters, in the largest building, always surrounded by his most devoted followers. "The weak point is the eastern fence," Dawson explained, pointing to his map. "It backs up against the creek. During spring melt, the water undermines the posts. They patch it, but it's never solid." "How do you know that?" Caleb asked. "Because I've been sending messages to my daughter through that gap for 2 years. Dawson's voice roughened. "She won't leave, says she's happy there, but she keeps responding, keeps meeting me at the fence." "She's been brainwashed," Clara said quietly. "It's what Ezekiel does. He makes you believe you chose it, makes you think the cage is freedom." "How'd you break free?" Clara's hand moved unconsciously to her shoulder, to the scar beneath her bandage. "They killed my husband, right in front of our daughter." Her voice didn't waver. "Hard to believe in paradise when you're covered in your husband's blood." Lily's pencil stopped moving. Everyone turned to look at her. The child stood up, slowly, walked to the table, placed her drawing in the center. Clara's breath caught. It was the compound. Detailed, precise, far more accurate than an 8-year-old should be able to render. Buildings and fences and pathways, all from a perspective high above bird's-eye view. But that wasn't what made Clara's heart stop. In the center of the compound, Lily had drawn flames, orange and red and yellow, consuming the largest building. Figures running, figures falling, and standing apart from the chaos, 3 people holding hands. A man, a woman, a child, safe, together, watching the fire burn. "Lily," Clara's voice shook. "Baby, how did you—" "I saw it." Lily's voice was matter-of-fact. "Last night, while I was sleeping." Caleb leaned closer, studying the drawing. "This is accurate. The layout, the buildings. This is exactly how Dawson described it." "She's never been there," Clara whispered. We joined after Samuel and I were already married. The compound was built later. She couldn't possibly know. I saw it, Lily repeated. I see things sometimes. Things that haven't happened yet. Dawson crossed himself, old habit half forgotten. Mother of God. Caleb's eyes moved from the drawing to Lily to Clara. This is why they want her. Why Crane wants her. Clara nodded, throat too tight for words. He thinks she's a prophet. The seventh chosen, he calls her. Says she'll lead the covenant into the new world. Clara gathered Lily against her protective fierce. He wanted to prepare her, purify her. What does that mean? Dawson asked. Purify. Clara couldn't answer. The words lodged in her chest like broken glass. It means kill her, Caleb said flatly. Doesn't it? Clara's silence was answer enough. They didn't speak for a long time after that. Lily had retreated to the corner again, drawing something new. Caleb stood at the window, staring out at the snow-covered darkness. Dawson paced, muttering calculations under his breath. Clara sat at the table, Lily's prophecy spread before her. Flames. Freedom. 3 figures holding hands. Could it be true? Could her daughter actually see the future? Or was it just the desperate imagination of a traumatized child creating happy endings to escape the horror of her reality? I'm going to the compound. Caleb's voice broke the silence. Clara's head snapped up. What? Tomorrow night. He turned from the window. Dawson, you said your daughter meets you at the eastern fence. Can you get a message to her? Probably. Why? Because I need to get inside. Caleb's jaw set. I need to find Thomas, talk to him, find out if he's really my brother, and if he is, find out what he knows. That's suicide, Clara said flatly. You'll be walking straight into Ezekiel's hands. Maybe. Or maybe I'll be walking into the one place they won't expect me. Caleb crossed to the table, planted his hands on the surface. Think about it. Crane's been hunting you for days. All his attention, all his resources focused outward, looking for you. So he won't be looking inward, won't be expecting threats from inside his own compound. Caleb's eyes burned with something new. Purpose. Determination. Thomas has been there for years. If anyone knows Crane's weaknesses, it's him. If Thomas is even really Thomas, Dawson pointed out. If he hasn't been completely turned. He hasn't. Caleb's voice was certain. My brother might have made bad choices, might have let himself get tangled up in something evil, but I know him, knew him. He shook his head. Thomas always had a conscience, always tried to do right, even when right was hard. And if you're wrong, Caleb met Clara's eyes, then I'm wrong, and I die trying to make things right. His voice softened. Better than dying alone in this cabin pretending the world outside doesn't exist. Clara studied him, this broken man who'd spent 6 years hiding from his grief, now ready to walk into hell for a brother who might not even want saving. She understood. God help her, she understood completely. I'm coming with you. No. I wasn't asking permission. Mrs. Whitmore. Clara. She stood closing the distance between them. If we're going to die together, you should probably use my first name. Caleb blinked. We're not going to die. Then there's no reason not to bring me. Clara smiled, the first real smile she'd managed in months. I know the compound, know the people, know how Ezekiel thinks. You're injured. I've been worse. You've got a daughter to protect. And the best way to protect her is to end this. Clara's smile faded, replaced by steel. Lily can stay with Sheriff Dawson. She'll be safe. No. Everyone turned. Lily stood in the corner, another drawing clutched in her small hands. I have to come too. Absolutely not, Clara said firmly. Lily, this isn't a game. These people, I know what they are. Lily's voice was quiet but unwavering. I know better than anyone. She walked to the table, placed her new drawing beside the first. This one showed the inside of a building. A room with candles and crosses and a figure on a raised platform, Ezekiel unmistakable, even in a child's rendering. And kneeling before him, a man in chains. A man who looked exactly like the younger Caleb in the photograph on the mantel. "That's Thomas," Lily said simply. "He's in the church, in the basement. They're keeping him there because he tried to leave." Caleb seized the drawing, hands trembling. "You saw this? You're sure?" Lily nodded. "He's been there for a long time. They hurt him when he disobeys, but he never stops trying to escape." Her eyes met Caleb's. "He never stops hoping you'll come." The paper crumpled in Caleb's grip. "Tomorrow night," he said hoarsely. "We go tomorrow night." Dawn broke gray and cold. Clara stood at the window watching the first light creep across the snow-covered hills. Somewhere out there, Ezekiel was hunting. Somewhere out there, Thomas was suffering. Somewhere out there, their future waited to be written. Footsteps behind her. Caleb's reflection appeared in the frost-covered glass. "Couldn't sleep." "No." Clara didn't turn around. "Too much thinking." "Know the feeling." He moved to stand beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat of him through her borrowed clothes. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry." "For what?" "For trying to turn you away, last night, when you first arrived." Clara finally looked at him. In the pale dawn light, he seemed younger somehow, less guarded. "You had every right. We're strangers bringing trouble to your door." "Still." His jaw worked. "You were bleeding, desperate, and I almost walked away." "But you didn't." "No." He met her eyes. "I didn't." Something passed between them. Clara couldn't name it, didn't want to name it, not yet, but it was warm, real. A connection forged in desperation and strengthened by shared purpose. "Caleb." She hesitated. "Whatever happens tomorrow night, don't. I just want you to know." "I said don't." His voice roughened. "Don't thank me. Don't say goodbye. Don't give me speeches about sacrifice and redemption." "Then what do you want me to say?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Tell me it's going to work. Tell me we're going to find Thomas, save those people, stop Crane. Tell me this isn't all for nothing." Clara reached out. Her hand found his calloused, strong, trembling slightly. "It's going to work," she said quietly. "We're going to find your brother. We're going to save everyone we can. And we're going to stop Ezekiel Crane." "You believe that?" "I have to." Clara squeezed his hand. "Because the alternative is giving up. And I've come too far to give up now." Caleb looked down at their joined hands. When he looked up again, something had changed in his eyes. "All right, Clara Whitmore." His voice was rough but warm. "Let's go save the world." Lily appeared in the doorway. Daisy clutched to her chest. "Mama!" Clara released Caleb's hand, crossed to her daughter. "What is it, baby?" "I had another dream." Lily's face was pale. "About tonight. About the compound." "What did you see?" Lily hesitated. Her eyes darted to Caleb, then back to Clara. "Fire," she whispered. "I saw fire everywhere. And screaming. And—" She stopped. "And what?" Clara prompted gently. Lily's grip on Daisy tightened. "And grandfather, standing in the flames." Her voice dropped even lower. "Smiling." Clara's blood went cold. "We need to move faster," she said, turning to Caleb. "Whatever we're planning, we need to do it now. Today." "That's impossible. Dawson needs time to contact his daughter, and we need to—" "There is no time." Clara's voice sharpened. "Lily's visions, they're never wrong. If she says Ezekiel is smiling in the flames, it means he knows something we don't. Means he's planning something. What kind of something?" Clara met his eyes. "The kind that ends with all of us dead." They left within the hour. Dawson rode ahead to Silver Creek, promising to send word to his daughter before nightfall. Clara watched him disappear over the ridge, her stomach tight with fear, and something else. Something that felt dangerously like hope. "You trust him?" Caleb asked, checking his rifle for the third time. "I trust he wants his daughter back." Clara pulled on the coat Caleb had given her, too big smelling of wood smoke and leather. "That's enough for now. And if he's wrong, if his daughter's too far gone to help us, then we find another way." Clara met his eyes. "There's always another way." Caleb studied her for a long moment. Whatever he saw in her face, it seemed to satisfy him. "Lily ready?" Clara glanced toward the house. Through the window she could see her daughter gathering her few possessions. Daisy, the drawings a blanket Caleb had given her. "She's ready. She's been ready since before we arrived here." "What do you mean?" "I mean she knew." Clara's voice softened. "She told me 3 days ago before we even ran. Said we'd find help at a farmhouse in the snow. Said a sad man would save us." Caleb went still. "She said that." "Word for word." Clara shook her head. "I thought it was just a child's imagination. Wishful thinking. But then we found you and—" She didn't finish. Didn't need to. "That's why Crane wants her," Caleb said quietly. "Not just because she sees things, but because she sees true things. Things that haven't happened yet." "Yes. And he wants to use that. Control it. He wants to own it." Clara's jaw tightened. "Like he owns everything else. Like he owned my husband. Like he tried to own me." The door opened behind them. Lily emerged small and solemn. Daisy tucked under one arm, and her drawings clutched in the other. "I'm ready, Mama." Clara knelt, brushing hair from her daughter's face. "You remember what we talked about staying quiet, and doing exactly what Mr. McAllister says?" "Yes. And if something goes wrong, run, hide, don't look back." Lily's voice was steady rehearsed. "Find Sheriff Dawson. Tell him everything." Clara's heart cracked a little more. 8 years old, already planning for the worst. "That's my brave girl." Lily's eyes moved to Caleb, standing silent behind her mother. "He's scared too," she said matter-of-factly, "but he's pretending he's not." Caleb's eyebrows rose. "That's so—" "Yes." Lily tilted her head, studying him with that unnerving intensity. "You're scared of finding your brother. Scared of what he might have become." "Lily," Clara's voice sharpened. "That's not polite." "It's all right." Caleb crouched down to Lily's level, bringing his eyes to hers. "She's right. I am scared." "Why?" "Because I loved my brother. Still love him." Caleb's voice roughened. "And I don't know if the man inside that compound is the same person I grew up with. The person who taught me to fish and shoot and ride. The person who stayed up all night with me when our mother was dying." Lily considered this. "He is," she said finally. "Different but the same, like Mama." Clara blinked. "Like me. You're different now than before." Lily's eyes moved to her mother. "Before Daddy died. Before we ran. But you're still Mama. Still the same inside where it matters." Clara's throat closed completely. "Baby. People don't stop being themselves just because bad things happen to them." Lily's voice held a certainty that seemed impossible for her age. "They just learn to hide better. Mr. Thomas learned to hide really well. But he's still in there, waiting for someone to find him." Caleb stood slowly. When he spoke, his voice was thick. "I hope you're right, little one." "I am." Lily tucked Daisy more securely under her arm. "I'm always right about the important things." Despite everything, the fear, the danger, the impossible odds, Clara laughed. "She's not wrong about that either." The journey to Silver Creek took most of the day. They avoided the main roads cutting through forests and across frozen streams, moving as fast as Lily's small legs could manage. Caleb led the way, rifle-ready eyes constantly scanning for threats. Clara brought up the rear, her wounded shoulder aching with every step. They stopped twice to rest. Once at an abandoned mining shack where Lily fell asleep against Clara's shoulder. Once at a creek crossing where Caleb refilled their canteens and checked Clara's bandage. "Bleeding stopped," he said, his touch surprisingly gentle as he rewrapped the wound. "But you're pushing too hard." "I'm fine." "You're pale as snow and shaking." His gray eyes met hers. "That's not fine." "I'll rest when Ezekiel is dead." Caleb's hands stilled. "You want him dead, not just stopped dead." "Don't you?" Clara held his gaze. "After what he did to your brother, what he's planning to do to my daughter. I want justice." "Justice." Clara's laugh was bitter. "You think there's justice for a man like Ezekiel Crane? He's got judges in his pocket, politicians, lawmen. Even if we exposed every crime, every murder, every child he's destroyed, he'd walk free. He always does." Dawson seems to think otherwise. Dawson hasn't spent 6 years inside that compound. Clara's voice hardened. "I have. I've seen what happens to people who try to bring Ezekiel down through proper channels. They disappear. Their families disappear. And Ezekiel gives another sermon about God's righteous judgment." Caleb finished with the bandage sat back on his heels. "So you want me to kill him?" "I want to kill him myself." The words came out flat, final. "But if I can't, if something happens to me, I need to know someone will finish it." "Clara, promise me." She grabbed his wrist grip, surprisingly strong for someone so exhausted. "Promise me that if I fall, you'll protect Lily. And you'll end him. Whatever it takes." Caleb looked down at her hand on his arm, then up at her face, fierce and desperate and absolutely certain. "I promise. Swear it." "I swear." His voice was rough. "On Thomas's life. On everything I've got left." Clara released him, let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." Caleb stood, offering his hand to help her up. "We've still got a long way to go." They reached the outskirts of Silver Creek as the sun began to set. The town was small, but busy miners and merchants and families going about their evening routines, oblivious to the 3 strangers watching from the tree line. "Dawson's place is on the north end," Caleb said quietly. "Past the church, blue shutters, and the compound. 5 miles west, past the old mill." His jaw tightened. "I can see the smoke from here." Clara followed his gaze. Sure enough, a thin column of gray rose against the darkening sky, marking the location of the Covenant of Light, marking Ezekiel's domain. "How do we get in without being seen?" "We don't." Caleb started moving again, keeping to the shadows. "We walk right through the front gate." Clara grabbed his arm. "What?" "Think about it." He turned to face her. "Crane's men are looking for a woman and child traveling alone, running scared. Hiding from the law." "We are hiding from the law." "But they don't know about me." Caleb's eyes gleamed with something like satisfaction. "Far as Crane knows, I'm just a hermit doctor living alone in the mountains. No connection to you, no reason to suspect. You're suggesting pretend we don't know each other. I'm suggesting I go in first, alone. Tell them I'm interested in joining. Get the lay of the land. Find Thomas, figure out the best way to get everyone out." "That's insane." "It's the only plan that might actually work." "And what are Lily and I supposed to do while you're playing convert?" Caleb hesitated. His eyes moved to Lily, who had stopped a few feet away, watching them with that uncanny stillness. "You stay with Dawson. Stay hidden. Wait for my signal." "What signal?" "I'll figure something out." Clara stared at him, torn between fury and admiration. "You're making this up as you go along, aren't you?" "Mostly." The ghost of a smile crossed his face. "But I've been making things up for 6 years. Got pretty good at it. And if you're caught, if Ezekiel sees through you, then you take Lily and run. Get to Denver. Find the federal marshals. Tell them everything." "Caleb." "Clara." He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his gray eyes, the day's worth of stubble on his jaw. I spent 6 years hiding from this, pretending my brother was dead, pretending I couldn't make a difference. I'm done pretending. This isn't about pretending. This is about survival. No. His voice softened. This is about doing what's right, finally, after all this time. Clara wanted to argue, wanted to shake him, scream at him, make him see how stupid and reckless this plan was. But she also understood the weight of years spent running, understood the desperate need to stop, turn around, face the thing that had been chasing you. You better come back, she said finally, planning on it. I mean it, Caleb. You better come back to us. Something shifted in his expression. His hand came up, almost touching her face, before he caught himself. I'll come back, he said quietly. I promise. They found Dawson's house just after dark. The sheriff met them at the back door, ushering them inside with quick, nervous movements. You're late. I was starting to think, we took the long way. Caleb moved to the window, checking the street outside. Anyone follow you from the compound? No. Martha was careful. Dawson's face creased with worry and hope. She'll help. Said she's been waiting for a chance to get out. Just needed a reason. And now she has one. Now she knows there's a plan. That her father hasn't given up on her. Dawson turned to Clara. She remembers you, Mrs. Whitmore, from before. Said you were kind to her. Clara's stomach dropped. Martha Jenkins. The girl with the red hair. That's her. She was one of Ezekiel's favorites. Clara's voice flattened. He used to call her his morning star. Dawson flinched like he'd been struck. I know what he did to her. He stopped, breathed. That's why she needs to get out. Why all of them need to get out. How many are there? Caleb asked. Believers, I mean. True believers. Maybe 20, 30 at most. The rest are like Martha, trapped, scared, going along to survive. And his inner circle, the ones who actually run things. 4 or 5. His brother Silas is the worst. Does all the dirty work while Ezekiel keeps his hands clean. Dawson's jaw tightened. And there's another one. Gabriel, second in command. Caleb went very still. Tell me about Gabriel. Quiet, keeps to himself. Been with the Covenant almost since the beginning. Dawson frowned. Why? Because Gabriel is my brother. The silence that followed was absolute. Dawson stared at Caleb, processing this information. His face cycled through shock, confusion, understanding. The man in the daguerreotype, Thomas McAllister. The same. And you're telling me he's one of Crane's lieutenants? Yes. Caleb's voice was tight. But if Lily's visions are right, he's also a prisoner. They're keeping him in the church basement. I've never seen anyone in the church basement. Because they don't want you to see. Because Thomas knows things Crane doesn't want getting out. Caleb turned from the window. That's why I need to get inside. Tonight. Tonight? Dawson shook his head. That's too soon. We need more time to... We don't have more time. Clara spoke up, her voice sharp. Lily had another vision this morning. Ezekiel standing in flames, smiling. What does that mean? It means he's planning something. Something big. Clara's hand found Lily's, squeezing gently. Something that ends with all of us dead if we don't stop it. Dawson looked from Clara to Caleb to Lily. You're asking me to trust a child's dreams. I'm asking you to trust me. Caleb stepped forward. And to help me save my brother, and your daughter, and everyone else trapped in that compound. The sheriff was quiet for a long moment. Then, what do you need? The plan came together in pieces. Martha would meet them at the eastern fence at midnight. She'd lead Caleb to the church where Thomas was being held. Dawson would create a distraction at the main gate, a fire maybe, or a commotion loud enough to draw attention away from the compound's interior. Clara and Lily would wait at Dawson's house. Hidden. Safe. Or as safe as anyone could be in Silver Creek. I don't like this, Clara said as Caleb prepared to leave. I should be going with you. You're injured, and Lily needs you here. Lily needs both of us alive. Which is why I'm going alone. Caleb checked his pistol, slid it into his holster. One person draws less attention than two, and if something goes wrong, don't. You'll still be free, still able to get her out. Clara caught his arm as he reached for his coat. You come back. You hear me? You find Thomas. You get Martha and you come back. Caleb looked down at her hand on his sleeve. When he looked up, something had shifted in his eyes, something soft and uncertain and entirely new. Why does it matter so much? What? Whether I come back? You barely know me. 2 days ago you were bleeding out in my yard. Clara's throat tightened. Because you're the first person in 6 years who's treated me like a human being. Because you fed my daughter and stitched my wounds and stayed up all night to keep us safe. Her voice cracked. Because I can't do this alone. I thought I could, but I can't. Caleb was silent. Then slowly, deliberately, he raised his hand to her face. His thumb brushed her cheek, calloused, warm, impossibly gentle. I'll come back, he said quietly. That's a promise. Before Clara could respond, he was gone. Lily appeared at her elbow. He's scared again. I know, baby. But he's not pretending anymore. Lily's small hand found Clara's. That's good, isn't it? Clara watched Caleb's shadow disappear into the darkness. I hope so. The hours crawled. Clara paced Dawson's small parlor, unable to sit, unable to rest. Every creak of the floorboards made her jump. Every gust of wind against the windows sounded like approaching footsteps. Lily sat by the fire drawing. Always drawing. Mama. Her voice was soft. Come look. Clara crossed to her daughter's side, looked down at the paper in Lily's lap. It was the church again, but different this time. The flames were smaller contained, and standing outside the burning building were 5 figures, not 3. Clara, Lily, Caleb, and 2 others. A man who might have been Thomas, older, thinner, but recognizable from the daguerreotype, and a young woman with long hair, Martha. They're all going to make it, Lily said quietly. All of them. You're sure? I'm sure. Lily looked up, her eyes clear and certain. But something else is coming. Something I can't see yet. What do you mean? It's like fog, covering part of the picture. Lily's small face creased with frustration. I can see the fire, the escape, the 5 of us together. But after that, she shook her head. After that, everything goes dark. Clara's blood chilled. Dark how? I don't know. Lily set down her pencil. It's never happened before. Usually I see everything all the way to the end. But this time, maybe it means there are choices still to be made. Clara kept her voice calm, reasonable. Maybe the future isn't decided yet. Maybe. Lily didn't sound convinced. Or maybe something bad is going to happen. Something so bad I can't make myself see it. Clara pulled her daughter close, held her tight. Nothing bad is going to happen. We're going to get out of this, all of us. Promise. Clara closed her eyes. Could she promise? Could anyone promise safety in a world where men like Ezekiel Crane held power? I promise I'll do everything I can to protect you, she said finally. Everything I have, everything I am. That's not the same as promising we'll be okay. No. Clara pressed a kiss to Lily's hair. But it's the best I can do. Gunshots. Clara was on her feet before the sound finished echoing, pulling Lily behind her, the knife appearing in her hand like magic. Stay low, she hissed. Against the wall. The shots came from the west, from the direction of the compound. Too soon, far too soon. Clara crossed to the window, peering through the gap in the curtains. In the distance, she could see lights moving, torches maybe, or lanterns flickering against the darkness like angry stars. The front door burst open. Clara whirled, knife raised, ready to fight to the death. Dawson stood in the doorway, breathing hard, blood running from a cut on his forehead. "We have to go. Now." "What happened? Where's Caleb?" "Trapped." Dawson grabbed a rifle from the wall, shoved a pistol into Clara's hands. "Martha was followed. They knew we were coming." "How? Does it matter?" He was already moving toward the back door, checking the alley beyond. "They're coming here next. 5 minutes, maybe less." Clara's mind raced. Think. The church. You said Thomas is in the church basement. Forget Thomas. Forget Caleb. We need to... I'm not leaving him. Mrs. Whitmore. I'm not leaving him. Clara's voice cut like steel. He went in there for us. For my daughter. I won't abandon him. Then you'll die, and your daughter will die, and everything, all of this will be for nothing. Clara hesitated. Lily's hand found hers, small, warm, trusting. Mama. The child's voice was steady. He's still alive. I can feel it. Lily. He's alive, and he needs us. Lily's eyes met Clara's. We can't leave him. You know we can't. Clara looked at her daughter, this impossible child who saw the future, who'd survived horrors no 8-year-old should face, who still believed in saving people despite everything. Then she looked at Dawson. Show me how to get to the church. You're insane. Show me, or I'll find it myself. Dawson stared at her for a long moment. Clara saw the calculation in his eyes, the weighing of risks, the assessment of odds. Then he swore under his breath. Through the mill. There's a passage, old smuggling route from the mining days. Comes out near the church's back entrance. Will you take us? No. He checked his rifle one last time. But I'll make damn sure they're looking the other way while you go. Clara nodded. It would have to be enough. Lily, stay close to me. Don't let go of my hand, no matter what. I won't, Mama. Dawson. Clara met the sheriff's eyes. Thank you. For everything. Don't thank me yet. He moved to the back door, cracked it open, scanned the darkness beyond. Clear. Go now. Straight through the trees, then left at the old mill. You'll see the passage looks like a storm cellar. Clara gathered Lily against her side. What about Martha? Pain flickered across Dawson's face. She's in God's hands now. All of them are. He slipped out into the night. A moment later, Clara heard gunfire, deliberate, measured, drawing attention away from the house. Away from them. Now, Lily, run! They ran. Through the darkness, through the trees, through the biting cold that stole Clara's breath and numbed her wounded shoulder. Lily kept pace beside her small legs, pumping. Daisy clutched so tight the ragdoll's seams were probably splitting. The mill loomed ahead, abandoned, decrepit, its water wheel frozen solid in the winter stream. Clara found the passage where Dawson said it would be. A cellar door half hidden by snow and dead brush. She yanked it open. Stairs descended into blackness. Mama. Lily's voice was barely a whisper. I'm scared. I know, baby. I'm scared too. Clara squeezed her daughter's hand. But we're going to find Mr. McAllister. And then we're all going to get out of here together. Promise. Clara thought of Caleb's face in the lamplight, his hands gentle on her wound, his voice rough with emotion, swearing to come back. Promise. They descended into the dark. The passage was narrow, damp, ancient. Clara felt her way along the walls, one hand trailing cold stone, the other gripping Lily's fingers like a lifeline. She could hear sounds above them, muffled shouts, running footsteps, the crack of gunfire. Dawson's distraction was working. But for how long? Mama, light ahead. Lily was right. A faint glow appeared in the distance, flickering and unsteady. Torchlight. Or candlelight. Clara slowed, pulling Lily behind her. The pistol felt heavy in her hand, unfamiliar, but she remembered the basics. Point. Shoot. Don't hesitate. The passage ended at another door, heavy wood iron hinges, a gap at the bottom, letting light seep through. Clara pressed her ear to the wood. Voices. At least 2, maybe 3. Male. Can't find them. Dawson's causing chaos at the gate and the woman's disappeared. She's here somewhere. Crane's certain. Crane's certain about a lot of things. Doesn't make them true. Careful. Talk like that gets people sent to the basement. Footsteps. Moving away. Clara counted to 30, to 60. Then she eased the door open. A cellar. Stone walls, dirt floor barrels, stacked in corners. A single torch, guttered in an iron bracket, casting dancing shadows across the space. Empty. For now. Clara slipped through, pulling Lily after her. They moved in silence, hugging the walls, staying low. Stairs at the far end. Leading up. To the church. To Caleb. Clara climbed. The church basement smelled of blood and rot. Clara pressed her hand over Lily's mouth, silencing the gasp that threatened to escape. The stairs had led them into a narrow corridor, torches flickering along stone walls that wept with moisture. And at the end of that corridor, a cell. Iron bars. A figure slumped against the far wall. Chains. Thomas? The name escaped Clara before she could stop it. The figure stirred, lifted his head. Even in the dim light, Clara could see the resemblance to Caleb, the same jaw, the same broad shoulders. But where Caleb was weathered, this man was broken. Hollow cheeks, sunken eyes, scars crisscrossing his bare arms like a map of suffering. "Who's there?" His voice was a rasp barely human. "A friend." Clara moved closer, checking the shadows for guards. "Caleb sent me." Thomas went rigid. "Caleb." The name came out strangled. "My brother, Caleb." "Yes." "He's here. He came. He came for you." Clara reached the cell door, examined the lock. Heavy. Old. But not impossible. "He's somewhere in the compound. We got separated when—" "You have to leave." Thomas surged forward, chains rattling. "Now, before they find you." "I'm not leaving without you." "You don't understand." His hands gripped the bar's knuckles white. "Ezekiel knows. He knows everything. The plan, the distraction, Dawson's daughter, it was a trap. All of it." Clara's blood froze. "What?" "Martha. She didn't betray you, she was forced. Ezekiel had her brother. Threatened to kill him if she didn't cooperate." Thomas's voice cracked. "She came to me last night, confessed everything, begged me to warn Caleb, but I couldn't. I was locked down here and—" "Where is Caleb now?" "The main hall. Ezekiel wanted him alive. Wanted to—" Thomas stopped, swallowed. "Wanted to make an example." Clara's grip tightened on the pistol. "How do I get to the main hall?" "You can't. There are guards everywhere. Silas has men at every entrance. Then I'll go through them. You'll die." "Maybe." Clara met his eyes. Caleb's eyes, she realized the same gray shot through with gold. "But I made a promise. And I don't break my promises." Thomas stared at her. Something shifted in his expression. Recognition, maybe, or respect. "There's another way," he said slowly. "A passage behind the altar. Ezekiel uses it when he wants to appear suddenly during services. Make the congregation think he's manifesting through divine power. Where does it come out? Behind the main hall, near the back entrance." Thomas pressed closer to the bars. "But you'll need a key for the passage door." "Where's the key?" "On Silas." Thomas's jaw tightened. "He keeps it on a chain around his neck, never takes it off." Clara absorbed this. Silas. The man who'd put the knife in her shoulder. The man who'd killed Samuel. The man she'd been waiting to face for 6 months. "Mama." Lily's voice was barely audible. Clara turned to find her daughter standing very still, eyes fixed on something in the shadows. A door. Half hidden behind a stack of old crates. "That's the altar passage," Thomas said, following Lily's gaze. "But it's locked. Without the key. It's not locked." Lily's voice was strange. Distant. "Not anymore." Clara crossed to the door, pushed gently. It swung open. "How did you—" Thomas began. "She sees things." Clara didn't have time to explain. "Lily, stay with Mr. Thomas. Don't move, don't make a sound. I'll be back." "Mama, no." "Lily." Clara knelt, gripping her daughter's shoulders. "I need you to be brave. Can you do that? Can you be brave for me?" Tears welled in Lily's eyes, but she nodded. "I'll be back," Clara repeated. "I promise." She kissed Lily's forehead, pressed Daisy into her arms, and stepped into the darkness. The passage was narrow and black as pitch. Clara moved by feel, one hand on the damp stone wall, the other clutching the pistol. Her shoulders screamed with every movement, but she pushed the pain down, locked it away. Later. She could hurt later, if there was a later. The passage twisted, climbed, leveled out. Clara lost track of distance, of time, of everything except the sound of her own breathing and the faint glow that gradually appeared ahead. Voices, growing louder. "Brought this on yourself, Doctor." Ezekiel. Clara would know that voice anywhere. Smooth as honey, cold as ice. "Could have stayed in your little cabin. Could have minded your own business. But you had to play hero." "Let me go." Caleb's voice tight with pain. "I'm nothing to you." "Nothing." Ezekiel laughed. "You're Thomas's brother, the one thing he still cares about. The one thing that might finally break him completely." Clara reached the end of the passage. A door slightly ajar. Through the gap, she could see the main hall candles everywhere, rough wooden pews, a raised platform at the far end. And on that platform, Caleb, bound to a post, blood running down his face from a gash on his temple. Silas stood beside him, knife in hand, grinning. Ezekiel paced before them, silver hair gleaming in the candlelight. "Where is she?" Ezekiel's voice hardened. "The woman, Clara. Where is she hiding?" "Go to hell." Silas's fist connected with Caleb's jaw. His head snapped back, blood spraying. "Wrong answer." Ezekiel stepped closer. "I'll ask again. Where is Clara Whitmore?" Caleb spat blood at Ezekiel's feet. "I don't know." "You're lying." "I'm not." Caleb lifted his head, met Ezekiel's eyes with something like defiance. "She ran. I told her to run, and she did. She's probably halfway to Denver by now." "Is that what you think?" Ezekiel smiled the smile Lily had described. The smile of a man standing in flames. "Then I have disappointing news for you, Doctor. She's not in Denver. She's not even outside these walls." Clara's heart stopped. "She's here, in this compound, with her precious daughter." Ezekiel's voice dropped to a purr. "Did you really think I wouldn't know? Did you really think anything happens in my domain without my knowledge? You're bluffing." "Am I?" Ezekiel snapped his fingers. A door opened at the side of the hall. Two men entered, dragging someone between them. Martha Dawson, barely conscious, her face swollen with bruises. Miss Dawson was kind enough to share some information before she lost the ability to speak clearly. Ezekiel didn't even glance at the beaten woman. "It seems there's a passage under the old mill, a passage that leads directly to my church." Clara's grip on the pistol went slick with sweat. "So you see, Doctor, your sacrifice was meaningless. Your little rescue mission was doomed from the start." Ezekiel spread his hands. "But I'm a merciful man. Tell me where Clara is hiding, exactly where, and I'll make your death quick, painless. And if I don't, then Silas will take his time." Ezekiel's smile widened. He's been looking forward to finishing what he started with Mrs. Whitmore, and afterward, well, your brother has been disappointingly resistant to my teachings. Perhaps watching you die slowly will remind him of his proper place. Caleb's face drained of color. "Leave Thomas alone." "That's not how this works." Ezekiel turned away, dismissive. "Silas, begin." Silas raised the knife. Clara stepped through the door. "Looking for me." Every head in the room turned. Clara stood in the entrance to the altar passage, pistol raised, heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her teeth. Ezekiel's eyes widened, then narrowed, then curved with something like delight. Clara, my dear wayward daughter. He opened his arms as if welcoming a lost lamb. You came back to us. I came for him. Clara nodded toward Caleb. Let him go. Or what? Ezekiel's voice dripped with amusement. You'll shoot me with that little pistol before Silas puts a knife in your throat. Clara's aim didn't waver. Maybe, maybe not, but I'll take at least one of you with me. Such fire, such spirit. Ezekiel shook his head slowly. Samuel never could tame you, could he? I told him from the beginning, some women are too wild, too dangerous. They need to be broken completely or put down like rabid dogs. Like you put down Samuel. Silence. Ezekiel's smile flickered, just for a moment. Samuel died in an accident, a tragic fall. Everyone saw what you wanted them to see. Clara's voice steadied. But I know the truth. Lily knows the truth, and so does Thomas. Thomas. Ezekiel spat the name. Thomas is a broken man, a failure. His testimony means nothing. His testimony means everything. Clara took a step forward. Because he has proof. Documents. Names. Dates. Every crime you've ever committed, every person you've ever destroyed, it's all written down, and it's already on its way to the federal marshals in Denver. Ezekiel's face went very still. You're lying. Am I? Clara smiled a hard, dangerous smile she'd learned from 6 years of surviving in his shadow. Dawson's been planning this for 3 years. His daughter was never really yours. She was feeding him information the whole time. Every secret, every sin, all of it. That's impossible. Is it? Clara gestured at Martha, still slumped between the guards. Ask her, if she can still speak. Ezekiel's mask cracked. For the first time since Clara had known him, she saw real fear in his eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by something far worse. Rage. Kill her! Ezekiel's voice dropped to ice. Kill her now! Silas moved. Clara fired. The bullet caught Silas in the shoulder, spinning him sideways. He roared in pain, dropped the knife, clutched his arm. Clara was already moving. She grabbed a candlestick from the altar, swung it at the nearest guard. He went down hard. Caleb. She threw him the knife Silas had dropped. Cut yourself free. Chaos erupted. Guards poured in from every entrance. Ezekiel was screaming orders, his composure completely shattered. Martha had collapsed, forgotten in the confusion. Clara fired again. Missed. Fired once more. Click. Empty. Silas was on his feet, blood streaming from his shoulder, face twisted with murder. You shot me, he snarled. You actually shot me. Should have aimed higher. He lunged. Clara dodged barely. Her wounded shoulder screamed as she hit the floor, rolled, came up with the empty pistol still clutched in her hand. Silas kicked it away, grabbed her by the throat, lifted her off the ground like she weighed nothing. I'm going to kill you slow, he breathed. Make you suffer the way you made me suffer. Let her go. Silas froze. Caleb stood behind him, knife pressed to the big man's throat. I said let her go. You won't do it. Silas's grip tightened on Clara's throat. You're soft, weak, just like your brother. My brother survived 6 years in this hellhole. Caleb's voice was flat. That's not weakness. That's strength you can't even imagine. He survived because he obeyed, because he broke. He survived because he was waiting. The knife pressed harder. Waiting for the right moment. Waiting for help to come. And you think you're that help? Silas laughed. One broken doctor and a dying woman. Not just us. A new voice. From the back of the hall, everyone turned. Thomas stood in the doorway. He looked nothing like the broken man Clara had left in the basement cell. His shoulders were straight, his eyes clear, his hand steady on the rifle he'd somehow acquired. And beside him, small and fierce and absolutely unafraid, stood Lily. "Let my mama go," Lily said clearly. "Or he'll shoot you." Silas hesitated. His grip on Clara's throat loosened slightly. "The child?" he breathed. "Ezekiel. It's the child." "I know." Ezekiel's voice came from somewhere behind Clara. "I can see her." Clara twisted in Silas's grip, trying to see. Ezekiel had retreated to the far end of the platform, surrounded by guards, his silver hair wild, his eyes burning. "Lily." His voice shifted, became soft, coaxing. "Lily, child. Come to grandfather. There's nothing to be afraid of." Lily didn't move. "Your mother is confused, sweetheart. She doesn't understand. But you understand, don't you? You see the truth." "I see you." Lily's voice was steady. "I see what you really are." "And what is that?" "A monster." Lily stepped forward, and Thomas's hand moved to her shoulder, protective. "A monster wearing a man's face. You hurt people. You kill people. And you tell yourself it's for God, but it's not. It's for you. It's always been for you." Ezekiel's face contorted. "You ungrateful little—" "Lily tells the truth." Thomas spoke for the first time, his voice stronger than Clara had heard it. "She always has. It's why you wanted her, Ezekiel. Not because she's chosen. Because she could expose you. Expose everything you've built on lies and blood." Silence. "No." Thomas raised the rifle. "I've been silent for 6 years. Played the faithful disciple. Watched you destroy lives and smiled and nodded and told myself there was nothing I could do. But I was wrong." "Thomas." "There was always something I could do. I was just too scared to do it." Thomas's eyes found Caleb's across the chaos of the hall. "I'm not scared anymore." He fired. The bullet caught Ezekiel in the chest. The preacher staggered backward, disbelief written across his face. His hand came up, touched the spreading stain on his white shirt, came away red. You shot me." "Yes." Thomas's voice was calm, certain. "I did." Ezekiel's legs buckled. He crumpled to the platform floor, still staring at the blood on his fingers like he couldn't quite believe it was real. God will punish you." "Maybe." Thomas lowered the rifle. "But at least I'll face him with clean hands." Ezekiel Crane drew one more breath. Then he was still. Silas released Clara. She dropped to the floor, gasping hand at her bruised throat. Through watering eyes, she saw the big man backing away, face pale, all the fight suddenly gone out of him. "He's dead." Silas's voice was hollow. "He's actually dead." "Silas." Caleb moved between him and Clara, knife still ready. "It's over. Surrender, and you might live to see trial." "Trial?" Silas laughed, a broken, bitter sound. "You think there'll be a trial? You think the law cares what happens out here? Dawson cares. The federal marshals care. There are still good people in this territory." "Good people." Silas looked around the hall at the stunned guards, at the followers frozen in shock at the body of the man who'd controlled them all. "There are no good people. Not really. Just people who haven't been broken yet." He drew a knife from his boot. For one terrible moment, Clara thought he was going to attack. Instead, he put the blade to his own throat. "Silas, don't—" Caleb started forward. Too late. The knife slashed. Silas fell. Clara turned away, pulling Lily against her, shielding the child from the sight. But Lily wasn't looking at Silas. Her eyes were fixed on the ceiling, on something no one else could see. "Fire," she whispered. "Mama, there's going to be fire." Clara smelled it then. Smoke. Coming from somewhere in the building. "The torches." Thomas's voice was sharp with alarm. When Silas fell, he knocked one into the curtains. Clara looked. Flames were already climbing the heavy drapes behind the altar, spreading with terrifying speed. "Everyone out!" Caleb shouted. "Now!" Chaos erupted again, but different this time. Not violence panic. The guards, the followers, everyone scrambling for the exits as smoke filled the air and flames ate through the old wooden walls. Thomas grabbed Martha, hoisted her over his shoulder. "This way, there's a back door." "Clara." Caleb's hand found hers in the smoke. "Stay close." She grabbed Lily. "Don't let go, baby. Don't let go no matter what." "I won't, Mama." They ran, through choking smoke and screaming people, through flames that licked at their clothes and heat that seared their lungs. Clara couldn't see, couldn't breathe, couldn't think, just ran following the grip of Caleb's hand like a lifeline. Cold air hit her face like a blessing. They were outside, in the snow, alive. Clara fell to her knees, coughing. Lily clutched against her chest. Beside her, Caleb collapsed, his breath coming in great heaving gasps. Thomas laid Martha gently in the snow and stood watching the church burn. "It's over." His voice was barely audible over the roar of flames. "It's finally over." People were streaming out of other buildings now, women, children, men who'd been held against their will. Some ran toward the tree line. Others just stood and stared at the inferno that had been their prison. "Dawson!" Caleb struggled to his feet. "Where's Dawson?" "Here." The sheriff appeared from the darkness, limping, badly, blood on his face, but alive. He stopped when he saw Martha drop to his knees beside her. "Martha, sweetheart, can you hear me?" Her eyes fluttered open. "Daddy, I'm here." Dawson gathered her in his arms, rocking her like a child. "I've got you. I've got you." Clara watched them, her heart aching with relief and exhaustion. Lily pressed against her side, Daisy still clutched in one arm. "Mama." "Yes, baby." "Is it over now? Are we safe?" Clara looked at Caleb standing beside his brother, their silhouettes lit by the burning church. Looked at Dawson, holding his daughter, weeping openly. Looked at the flames consuming the symbol of everything that had terrorized them. "Yes," she said softly. "We're safe." Lily was quiet for a moment. Then, "Mr. Caleb is looking at you." Clara turned. Sure enough, Caleb's eyes were on her, something soft and wondering in their gray depths. "I know," Clara murmured. "He looks at you like Daddy used to look at you, before everything went bad." Clara's throat tightened. "Lily, I think he loves you." Lily's voice was matter-of-fact. "And I think you love him too, even though you're both scared to say it." Clara didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because her daughter was right. She was terrified. But for the first time in 6 years, she was also hopeful. And that, she realized, was something worth fighting for. The church burned until dawn. Clara sat on an overturned wagon, Lily asleep against her shoulder, and watched the flames devour the last of Ezekiel Crane's empire. Sparks drifted upward like lost souls, disappearing into the gray morning sky. "You should rest." Caleb's voice was rough from smoke. He lowered himself beside her, moving stiffly, his face a mess of cuts and bruises. "Can't." Clara didn't take her eyes off the fire. "Every time I close my eyes I see him. Silas. The knife at his throat. He made his choice." "I know." She shivered, despite the heat radiating from the burning building. "Doesn't make it easier." They sat in silence for a long moment. Around them, survivors huddled in small groups, some weeping, others simply staring. Dawson had organized the able-bodied men into a line, passing buckets, to keep the fire from spreading to the other buildings. "Thomas is looking for you," Clara said finally. Caleb nodded but didn't move. 6 years. His voice was barely audible. 6 years I thought he was dead. Mourned him. Blamed myself. And he was here the whole time. He was protecting you. I didn't need protecting. I needed my brother." Clara turned to look at him. In the firelight, the years showed on his face, the grief, the loneliness, the weight of carrying guilt that was never his to bear. "He needs you now," she said quietly. "That's what matters." Caleb's jaw tightened. He looked toward the small cabin where Thomas had taken Martha, where the wounded were being tended by those with medical knowledge. "I don't know what to say to him." "You'll find the words." What if I can't? Clara reached out, touched his hand. His fingers curled around hers, holding tight. Then don't say anything. Just be there. She squeezed gently. Sometimes that's enough. Caleb was quiet. Then slowly he lifted her hand to his lips, pressed a kiss to her knuckles. Thank you. For what? For making me remember. His eyes met hers. What it feels like to fight for something, someone. Clara's heart stuttered. Caleb. I know. He released her hand, stood. Not the time. Maybe not even the place. A ghost of a smile crossed his battered face. But when this is over, when everyone's safe and the marshals have come, and Ezekiel's people are facing justice, I'd like to have a conversation with you, Clara Whitmore. What kind of conversation? The kind that involves the future. He held her gaze. Our future, if you want one. Clara couldn't speak. Her throat had closed completely, but she nodded, and Caleb's smile widened just a fraction, just enough, before he turned and walked toward the cabin where his brother waited. Lily stirred against Clara's shoulder. Mama. Shh. Go back to sleep, baby. I heard what he said. Lily's voice was muzzy with exhaustion. About the future. You were supposed to be sleeping. I was mostly sleeping. A pause. Do you want a future with him? Clara looked toward the cabin where Caleb had just disappeared through the door. I don't know, she admitted. Yes, you do. Lily shifted, burrowing closer. You're just scared to say it. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just weren't listening. Clara laughed, a genuine laugh, surprising herself. It felt strange in her throat, unfamiliar after so many months of nothing but fear. I'm listening now, she said softly. Good. Lily yawned. Because I like Mr. Caleb, and I think Daddy would have liked him too. Clara's eyes burned. You think so? I know so. Lily's voice was fading sleep, reclaiming her. Daddy always said the best people are the ones who keep trying, even when everything's broken. She was asleep before she could finish. Clara held her daughter close and watched the sun rise over the ashes of their nightmare. Thomas was sitting by the window when Caleb entered the cabin. The brothers stared at each other across the small room, 6 years of silence stretching between them like a physical presence. You look terrible, Thomas said finally. You should see the other guy. Caleb's voice cracked. Oh, wait. You can't. He's dead. Neither of them laughed. Caleb crossed to the window, stood beside his brother. Through the glass they could see the church, or what remained of it. A skeleton of blackened beams still smoking. I thought you were dead. I know. I buried you, Thomas. I buried a body, and I thought it was one of Ezekiel's men, a drifter who crossed him. Thomas's voice was flat. They beat him until he was unrecognizable, dressed him in my clothes. Made sure you'd find the body. Why? Because I tried to leave. Because I told Ezekiel I was done, that I couldn't stomach any more of his purifications. Thomas's hands clenched on his knees. He gave me a choice. Stay and serve or watch my family burn. I'm your family. That's what he meant. Thomas finally looked at Caleb, and his eyes were wet. You. Our cousins in Ohio. Everyone I'd ever loved. He said he'd kill you all one by one and make me watch. So you stayed. So I stayed, became Gabriel, pretended to believe, pretended to serve. Thomas's voice broke, and every day I died a little more inside. Caleb was silent for a long moment. Then he reached out and gripped his brother's shoulder. You should have told me. How any message could have been intercepted. Any attempt to reach you could have led him straight to you. I would have come for you. I know. Thomas's laugh was bitter. That's why I couldn't risk it. You would have gotten yourself killed trying to save me, and I couldn't. I couldn't be responsible for that. Not on top of everything else. Thomas, I've done things. Thomas pulled away, stood, moved to the other side of the room. Things that can't be forgiven. People I helped prepare for purification. People I... Stop. Thomas froze. Caleb closed the distance between them, grabbed his brother's arms. Look at me. Thomas wouldn't. Look at me, Thomas. Slowly, reluctantly, his brother raised his eyes. You survived, Caleb said quietly. You did what you had to do to survive. And when the moment came when it really mattered, you made the right choice. I killed him. I killed a man in cold blood. You killed a monster. There's a difference. Is there? Thomas's voice was raw. Because I don't feel like a hero, Caleb. I feel like a murderer. I feel like I spent 6 years being his puppet, and now that the strings are cut, I don't know who I am anymore. You're my brother. Caleb's grip tightened. You're Thomas McAllister. You're the boy who stayed up all night with me when our mother died. The man who taught me that some fights are worth having even when you know you'll lose. That was a long time ago. Doesn't matter. That person is still in there. Caleb's voice softened. I know, because I've been where you are. Spent 6 years hiding from my own ghosts. Thought I was too broken to help anyone, too damaged to matter. What changed? Caleb thought of Clara, of Lily, of a bleeding woman and a silent child desperate in the snow. Someone needed me, he said simply, and I decided to show up. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. The woman, he said finally. Clara, she's special, isn't she? Yeah. Caleb couldn't help the small smile that crossed his face. She is. And the little girl, Lily. What about her? She sees things. Thomas's voice was wondering. Really sees them. Not like Ezekiel's fake prophecies, real visions, real truth. I know. Is that why you came? Because she saw you would? I came because it was right. Caleb released his brother's arms. I came because I spent too long running from fights that mattered. And because somewhere deep down, I always knew you weren't dead. I just couldn't admit it to myself. Why not? Because if you were alive, it meant I'd abandoned you. Caleb's voice roughened. It meant I'd failed you, and I wasn't ready to face that. You didn't fail me. Thomas. You didn't. Thomas gripped Caleb's shoulder, mirroring the earlier gesture. I made my choice. I chose to stay, chose to protect you the only way I knew how. That's not your failure. That's my decision. A decision you shouldn't have had to make. Maybe. But I made it. And now? Thomas looked toward the window, toward the rising sun. Now we get to make new choices. Better ones. What does that look like for you? Thomas was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, he admitted. I've spent so long being Gabriel that I'm not sure who Thomas is anymore. But I'd like to find out. His eyes met Caleb's. If you'll help me. Caleb didn't hesitate. Always. The federal marshals arrived 3 days later. Clara watched them ride into what remained of the compound, a dozen men in uniform, led by a grim-faced captain named Roberts. They brought wagons for the survivors' documents for testimony chains for those who'd been Ezekiel's willing accomplices. Mrs. Whitmore. Clara turned. One of the marshals approached hat in hand, face carefully neutral. I'm Deputy Marshal Hayes. Captain Roberts asked me to inform you that we've reviewed Sheriff Dawson's evidence. Combined with the testimony we've already collected, there's more than enough to ensure justice is served. Justice. Clara tasted the word. What does that mean exactly? It means the men who helped Crane, the ones who participated in the purifications, will face trial in Denver. Federal trial. No local judges who might have been in Crane's pocket. And the others? The ones who were just followers. Hayes shifted uncomfortably. That's more complicated. Some of them didn't know what was really happening. Others knew but were too scared to leave. We're trying to sort out who's who. Most of them are victims. Clara's voice hardened. Women who were told they had no choice. Men who were threatened with violence against their families. Children who never knew anything different. I understand that, ma'am, and the captain's taking it into account. Hayes replaced his hat. There'll be a hearing in Denver. You and your daughter will need to testify. We'll be there. Yes, ma'am. One more thing. Hayes hesitated. The doctor's here, Thomas McAllister. There are some who want to see him charged alongside the others. Clara's blood chilled. Thomas saved us. He killed Ezekiel. Without him. I know, and the captain knows. But there are complications. Witnesses who claim Gabriel Thomas participated in at least 3 purifications over the years. Under duress. Ezekiel threatened his family. That'll be for the court to decide. Hayes's voice was not unkind. I'm just warning you, ma'am. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. He touched his hat and walked away. Clara stood very still watching the marshals move through the compound, watching the survivors being loaded into wagons, watching the smoke still rising from the ruins of the church. Mama. Lily appeared at her side, Daisy tucked under one arm. Yes, baby. Mr. Thomas is in trouble, isn't he? Clara considered lying. Considered protecting her daughter from one more hard truth. She couldn't. Yes, some people think he should be punished for things he did while he was here. But he only did those things because he was scared, because the bad man made him. I know, but proving that is complicated. Lily was quiet for a moment, her small face serious. I can help, she said finally. What do you mean? I see things that happened, things that will happen. Lily's grip on Daisy tightened. If I tell the court what I saw, what really happened, maybe they'll believe me. Lily, you're 8 years old. Courts don't usually listen to children. Then I'll make them listen. Lily's chin lifted with that stubborn determination Clara knew so well. Mr. Thomas is good. He saved us. He shouldn't be punished for being brave. Clara knelt, taking her daughter's face in her hands. You are remarkable. You know that. Daddy used to say that. He was right. Clara kissed her forehead. But I don't want you to carry this burden. It's not your job to save everyone. Then whose job is it? Clara had no answer for that. Caleb found her an hour later sitting alone on the steps of one of the few buildings that hadn't burned. Hayes told me about Thomas, he said without preamble. I'm sorry. Don't be. Not your fault. Caleb sat beside her close, but not touching. Robert says if Thomas testifies against the others, tells them everything about how Ezekiel operated, it might help his case. Will he do it? He already has. Spent 3 hours with the captain this morning. Caleb ran a hand through his hair. 6 years of secrets all coming out. Names, dates, locations. Bodies buried in places no one thought to look. Clara shuddered. How's he holding up? Better than I expected. I think... Caleb paused, choosing his words. I think he's relieved. The weight of keeping all that inside it was killing him. At least now it's out. And what about you? Caleb turned to look at her. What about me? How are you holding up? He was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, he admitted finally. Part of me is angry. Furious that Thomas went through all that alone, that I wasn't there to help him. Part of me is relieved he's alive. Part of me is terrified about what comes next. And the rest? Caleb's eyes met hers. The rest of me is just grateful. For you. For Lily. For the chance to stop running and start living again. Clara's heart clenched. Caleb. I know I said we'd talk when this was over. And it's not over yet. But I need you to know something, Clara. He took her hand, held it gently. Whatever happens with the trial with Thomas, with everything, I'm not going anywhere. Not unless you want me to. I don't want you to. The words came out before she could stop them. Caleb's breath caught. You're sure? No. Clara laughed, surprising herself. I'm not sure of anything anymore. My husband is dead. My father-in-law tried to kill my daughter. I've been running for months, bleeding, starving, terrified every second of every day. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement. Let me finish. Clara squeezed his hand. All of that is true. And it should make me want to run again, get Lily somewhere safe, somewhere far from all of this. But instead, I keep thinking about your kitchen, about eggs and bacon and coffee, about Lily falling asleep at your table safe for the first time in months. Clara's voice softened. About you sitting up all night guarding us, a stranger, a woman you'd never met. You weren't a stranger. Caleb's thumb traced circles on her palm. Not after the first 5 minutes. I looked at you and I saw, I don't know, someone who'd been through hell and was still standing. Someone who'd do anything to protect her child. I'm not special. You're wrong. He lifted her hand, pressed it to his chest. You're the bravest person I've ever met. And I've met a lot of people, Clara. Soldiers, doctors, men who thought they knew what courage meant. None of them hold a candle to you. Clara's eyes burned. You don't know me. Not really. Then let me learn. His voice dropped urgent now. Let me earn it. Your trust, your friendship, whatever you're willing to give. I'm not asking for everything. I'm just asking for a chance. Clara looked at him, this broken, beautiful man who'd opened his door to strangers and fought beside her against impossible odds. One condition, she said finally. Anything. We do this right, slowly. No rushing into anything because we almost died together. I can do slow. And Lily comes first. Always. No matter what. Clara. Caleb's voice was fierce. Lily already comes first. For both of us. She believed him. That was the most terrifying part. Okay, she whispered. Okay. Okay. We'll try. Clara managed a shaky smile. But if you break my daughter's heart, you'll shoot me. I know. Caleb's smile matched hers. Fair warning, though. If anyone breaks hearts around here, it'll probably be me. I'm out of practice at all of this. We'll figure it out together. Together. He tested the word like it was new. I like the sound of that. Me too. They sat there as the sun climbed higher, hands intertwined, watching the marshals work, watching the survivors rebuild, watching the ashes of the old world settle around them. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't even close to perfect. But it was real. And for now, that was enough. Dawson found them at sunset. His arm was in a sling, his face still bruised, but his eyes were clearer than Clara had ever seen them. Martha's going to be all right, he said without preamble. Doctor says she needs rest, but she'll recover. That's good news. Clara shifted to make room for him on the steps. How is she? Really? Confused, scared, ashamed. Dawson lowered himself, carefully wincing. 3 years of believing Ezekiel's lies. Finding out it was all manipulation. That takes time to process. She wasn't the only one fooled. I know, but she was my daughter. I should have protected her better. You did what you could. Caleb's voice was firm. You spent 3 years building a case against Crane. You risked everything to bring him down. And almost got everyone killed in the process. But you didn't. Clara touched his arm. We're alive. Martha's alive. And Ezekiel is dead. That's not nothing. Dawson was quiet for a long moment. The captain wants me to testify too, he said finally. About my investigation. About what I learned. Will you? Already agreed to. It's the least I can do. He looked toward the cabin where Martha was resting. But after that, I don't know. I've been so focused on bringing Crane down, I never thought about what comes next. What do you want? Clara asked. Dawson considered the question. I want my daughter back, he said finally. Not the woman Ezekiel made her into. The girl she was before. The one who laughed and dreamed and believed in good things. She's still in there. Maybe. Dawson's voice was tired. I hope so. She is. Lily's voice came from behind them. Clara turned. Her daughter stood in the doorway, Daisy tucked under her arm, face solemn. How do you know? Dawson asked. Because I saw her. Yesterday when the church was burning. Lily moved to stand beside her mother. She was crying, not because she was scared, because she was relieved. Dawson's breath caught. You saw that? I see a lot of things. Lily's voice was matter-of-fact. And I saw Martha's face when she realized it was over. She looked like Mama did when we found Mr. Caleb's house, like she'd been holding her breath for years and finally got to let it out. Lily. Your daughter loves you, Sheriff Dawson. Lily's eyes met his. She never stopped. She was just too scared to show it. But the scared part is over now. You just have to help her remember who she used to be. Dawson stared at this strange, knowing child. How old are you again? 8. You talk like you're 40. That's what Mama says too. Lily shrugged. I can't help what I see. I just see it. Dawson shook his head slowly. Ezekiel was right about one thing, he said quietly. You are special, little one. Just not in the way he thought. I'm not special. I'm just different. Different is good. Dawson pushed himself to his feet, grimacing. Different keeps the world interesting. He touched his hat to Clara, nodded to Caleb, and walked slowly toward the cabin where his daughter waited. Lily watched him go. He's going to be okay, she said finally. Both of them. It'll take time, but they'll find their way back to each other. You see that too? No. Lily's voice softened. Some things I just believe. Clara pulled her daughter close, pressing a kiss to her hair. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just weren't paying attention. I'm paying attention now. Good. Lily leaned into her mother's embrace. Because I have one more thing to tell you. What's that? Lily looked up, her eyes finding Caleb's over Clara's shoulder. He's going to ask you something important soon, something about staying. Clara's breath caught. Lily. And when he does, you should say yes. Lily's voice was certain. Because we belong here. With him. I've known it since the first night when he carried you into his house. Clara looked at Caleb. He looked back at her, something like wonder in his gray eyes. She's something else, he murmured. She's mine, Clara replied. Yeah. Caleb's smile was slow, warm, real. She is. They sat together as the stars came out, a woman and her daughter and a man who'd forgotten how to hope until hope came bleeding to his door. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. And that Clara realized was everything. 6 months later, the snow had melted. Clara stood on the porch of Caleb's farmhouse, their farmhouse, now watching Lily chase fireflies through the tall grass. The child's laughter echoed across the valley, pure and bright, a sound Clara had once feared she'd never hear again. She's happy. Caleb's voice came from behind her. His arms slid around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. She is. Clara leaned into him. I almost don't recognize her sometimes. This laughing, running, playing child. It's like she's becoming who she was always meant to be. She's becoming herself, finally. They watched in comfortable silence as Lily caught a firefly in her cupped hands, examined it with wonder, then released it back into the evening air. Thomas sent a letter, Caleb said finally. The trial's over. He's been cleared of all charges. Clara's breath caught. Really? Judge ruled he acted under extreme duress. Said there was no evidence of willing participation in any of Crane's crimes. Caleb's voice roughened. He's free, Clara. Really free. Where is he now? Denver. Working at a hospital there. Says the doctors are impressed with his skills. A pause. Says he's thinking of coming to visit, if we'll have him. Clara turned in Caleb's arms, looked up at his face. Is that what you want? I want my brother back. Caleb's voice was simple, honest. I want him to meet you properly, to see what we've built here, to know he has a family again. Then tell him to come. You're sure? After everything, Caleb, Clara touched his face. He saved my life. He saved Lily's life. He killed the man who murdered my husband and tried to destroy my daughter. Her voice softened. He's welcome in our home. Always. Caleb kissed her forehead. I don't deserve you. Probably not. Clara smiled. But you're stuck with me anyway. Best thing that ever happened to me, being stuck with you. Mama, Mr. Caleb. Lily came running toward them, Daisy bouncing under her arm. Come look, the fireflies are making patterns. Clara exchanged a glance with Caleb. Patterns. Like writing, like they're trying to tell me something. They followed Lily into the meadow where hundreds of fireflies danced in the gathering dusk. Clara didn't see any patterns, just the random flickering of light she'd known all her life. But Lily stood transfixed, her eyes tracking movements invisible to everyone else. What do they say? Caleb asked, his voice gentle. They say good things are coming. Lily's face lit up with a smile. They say we're going to be okay. Clara's throat tightened. And you believe them? I believe everything's going to be different now. Better. Lily turned to look at them, her eyes shining. I believe we're home. Home. The word settled into Clara's chest like a warm stone. For so long, home had been a memory, a dream, something she'd lost the night Samuel died and never expected to find again. But looking at Caleb's farmhouse in the fading light at the garden she'd planted at the curtains, she'd hung at the life they'd built together from the ashes of their separate tragedies. She realized Lily was right. They were home. The letter arrived 3 weeks later. Clara recognized the handwriting immediately, Thomas's careful script so different from Caleb's rough scrawl. He's coming next month, she told Caleb over breakfast. Wants to stay for a week if we can manage. We can manage. Caleb poured her more coffee. I'll fix up the back room. It needs work anyway. You've been saying that for months. Now I have motivation. Lily looked up from her porridge. Is Mr. Thomas nice? He saved our lives, remember? I know, but is he nice? Clara and Caleb exchanged glances. I think so, Caleb said carefully. He's been through a lot. It might take him time to feel comfortable around people again. Like you. Caleb's eyebrows rose. What do you mean? When we first came here, you weren't nice. You were grumpy, and you wanted us to leave. Lily's voice was matter of fact. But then you became nice, really nice. Maybe Mr. Thomas will too. Maybe he will. I hope so. Lily returned to her porridge. I already picked out which drawings to show him. Clara smiled. In the months since the fire, Lily had started drawing again, but different things now. Flowers, animals, the farmhouse at sunset. Images of beauty instead of prophecy. The nightmares had faded. The silences had grown shorter. The child who'd once refused to speak now chattered constantly, filling the farmhouse with life and noise and joy. It wasn't perfect. Some nights Lily still woke screaming. Some days Clara still flinched at loud noises. Some moments Caleb still retreated into himself, lost in memories of war and loss. But they were healing, slowly, imperfectly together. And that was enough. Dawson came to visit a week before Thomas was due to arrive. He brought Martha with him. Clara watched the young woman climb down from the wagon, her red hair catching the sunlight, her face still pale, but no longer hollow. Mrs. Whitmore. Martha's voice was barely audible. I wanted to. I needed to. Clara. She stepped forward, took Martha's hands. Call me Clara. Clara. Martha's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry. For everything. For betraying you. For... You didn't betray anyone. Clara squeezed her hands. You did what you had to do to survive. I understand that better than most. But people almost died because of me. People did die. Because of Ezekiel. Not because of you. Martha shook her head, tears spilling over. I should have been stronger, should have found another way. There was no other way. Clara's voice gentled. Believe me, I looked for years. When a man like Ezekiel controls every aspect of your life, threatens everyone you love, you do what he says. That's not weakness. That's survival. Martha was quiet for a long moment. Then unexpectedly she hugged Clara. It was awkward, tentative, the embrace of someone who'd forgotten how to accept comfort. But Clara held on, letting the younger woman cling to her, letting her cry. I'm trying to forgive myself, Martha whispered. Daddy says it takes time. Your father's a wise man. He's stubborn. A watery laugh. Won't let me give up. Won't let me disappear into the guilt. That's what family does. Martha pulled back, wiping her eyes. Is it true, what they say about your daughter? Clara tensed. What do they say? That she sees things that haven't happened yet. She perceives things differently. I don't know if it's prophecy or intuition or something else entirely. Clara looked toward the house where Lily was showing Caleb's horse how to eat an apple from her hand. She's just a child, a special child, but still a child. I believe you. Martha's voice was soft. I just wanted to say what she told my father, about me still loving him, about me being relieved when the church burned. She swallowed hard. She was right, about all of it. Lily has a gift for seeing the truth in people. It's more than that. Martha's eyes found Lily in the distance. She saw me, really saw me, when everyone else just saw what Ezekiel made me into. A pause. That's not nothing. No. Clara watched her daughter laugh as the horse nuzzled her palm. It's not. Dawson stayed for dinner. They ate on the porch as the sun set, talking about everything and nothing. The weather, the crops, the new schoolhouse being built in Silver Creek. Normal things. Safe things. Federal marshals finished their investigation last month, Dawson said eventually. 23 convictions so far. More to come. And the survivors. The ones who weren't willing participants. Most have scattered, started new lives. A few went back to families they'd been taken from. Dawson set down his fork. Some couldn't adjust. The outside world was too big, too uncertain. Where are they now? Some in Denver. There's a church there, a real church, not like Ezekiel's, that's been taking them in, helping them find their feet. That's good. Clara glanced at Martha, who was helping Lily identify constellations in the darkening sky. Everyone deserves a second chance. Even people who did bad things. Especially them. Clara met Dawson's eyes. I spent 6 years in that compound. Did things I'm not proud of. Turned a blind eye to things I shouldn't have. Her voice steadied. If I don't believe in second chances, then what hope do I have for myself? Dawson was quiet for a long moment. You're a remarkable woman, Clara Whitmore. I'm a survivor. There's a difference. Is there? Dawson stood, reaching for his hat. From where I'm sitting, they look pretty similar. He gathered Martha, made his goodbyes, promised to return soon. Clara watched their wagon disappear over the ridge, then turned to find Caleb watching her. What? Nothing. But his eyes were soft. Just thinking about how lucky I am. Lucky. That you bled all over my fence that night. His voice roughened. That you didn't give up, that you trusted me enough to stay. I didn't have much choice. You had choices. Caleb moved closer. You could have run the moment the sun came up, could have taken Lily and disappeared. Instead you stayed, fought beside me, saved my brother's life. You saved ours first. That's not... He stopped, shook his head. I'm trying to tell you something important. Then tell me. Caleb took her hands. In the fading light, his gray eyes were almost silver. I love you, Clara. I've loved you since that first night when you dropped to your knees in the snow and begged me to save your daughter. I've loved you through the fire and the fear, and the 6 months of learning how to be a family. Clara's heart stuttered. Caleb. Let me finish. He squeezed her hands. I know it's too soon. I know you lost your husband barely a year ago. I know there are 100 reasons why this is complicated and messy, and probably a terrible idea. But, but I'm going to ask anyway." His voice dropped. "Clara Whitmore, will you marry me?" The question hung in the air between them. Clara looked at this man, this broken, beautiful, stubborn man, who'd opened his door to strangers, and fought beside her against impossible odds. She thought of Samuel, of the love they'd shared before Ezekiel poisoned everything, of the promise she'd made at his grave to protect their daughter at any cost. She thought of Lily, thriving here, happy here, finally becoming the child she was meant to be. She thought of the future, not the dark, terrifying future she'd feared for so long, but something brighter, something possible. Yes. The word came out quiet, certain. Caleb's face transformed. Yes. Yes. Clara laughed, tears spilling down her cheeks. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll stay. Yes to all of it. He kissed her, then deep and desperate, and full of everything he couldn't put into words. When they finally broke apart, Lily was standing in the doorway, Daisy clutched to her chest, a knowing smile on her face. "I told you," she said simply. "I told you he was going to ask something important." "You did." Clara held out her arm and Lily ran to her, burrowing into the embrace. "You always know, don't you?" "Not always." Lily looked up at Caleb. "But I knew this. I knew it the first night." "How?" "Because you looked at Mama the way Daddy used to, before everything went bad." Lily's voice was soft. "And Mama looked at you like she'd forgotten how to be scared." Caleb crouched down to Lily's level. "I'm going to marry your Mama," he said seriously, "if that's all right with you." "It's all right. I won't try to replace your father. I know how much you loved him." "I know." Lily tilted her head. "But you could be something else, something new." "What kind of something?" Lily considered this. "A friend," she said finally. "A good friend who lives with us and loves Mama and helps take care of things." "I can do that. And maybe—" Lily's voice dropped suddenly shy. "Maybe someday when it feels right. Maybe I could call you something different." Caleb's throat worked. "What kind of something different?" Lily didn't answer directly. Instead, she stepped forward and hugged him, the first time she'd initiated contact since they'd arrived at his farmhouse all those months ago. Caleb wrapped his arms around her carefully like she was made of glass. "Thank you," he whispered, "for trusting me. Thank you for saving us." Lily pulled back, her eyes bright. "And for making Mama smile again." Thomas arrived on a Thursday. Clara watched him climb down from the stagecoach, thinner than she remembered, but standing straighter, his eyes clearer. Caleb moved past her, crossing the distance to his brother in 3 long strides. They stood facing each other for a moment, 2 men shaped by the same tragedy, separated by years and lies and impossible choices. Then Caleb pulled Thomas into a fierce embrace. "Welcome home," he said roughly. "I don't have a home anymore." "Yes, you do." Caleb pulled back, gripping his brother's shoulders. "Right here, as long as you want it." Thomas's composure cracked. "I don't deserve—" "Stop." Caleb's voice was firm. "We're done talking about what we deserve. We're talking about what we have. And what we have is each other. Finally." Thomas's eyes found Clara still standing on the porch with Lily. "Mrs. Whitmore, I hope my being here isn't—" "Clara." She came down the steps, extending her hand. "And you're welcome here, always." Thomas took her hand, held it gently. "I never properly thanked you. For what you did. For coming after Caleb, when you could have run." "I couldn't have run. Not really." Clara squeezed his fingers. "Some things are worth fighting for." "Yes." Thomas's voice was quiet. "I'm beginning to understand that." Lily appeared at Clara's side. "You're Mr. Thomas." "And you're Lily." Thomas crouched to her level. "I've heard a lot about you." I've heard a lot about you too. Lily studied him with that uncanny intensity. You're different now. From before. Before, in the church, when you were sad and broken. Lily tilted her head. You're still sad sometimes, but you're not broken anymore. Thomas blinked. How do you know that? I just see it. Lily shrugged. You have light in you now. You didn't before. Thomas looked up at Caleb, something like wonder in his eyes. She really does see things, doesn't she? Yeah. Caleb's voice was fond. She really does. The week passed quickly. Thomas helped Caleb with the repairs on the barn. He examined Lily's old shoulder wound, pronounced it healed. He sat on the porch with Clara in the evenings talking about everything and nothing. You make him happy, Thomas said one night when Caleb had gone to check on the horses. I haven't seen him like this since before the war. He makes me happy too. I know, I can see it. Thomas was quiet for a moment. When Ezekiel first took me in, he talked about family, about belonging, about finding your place in God's design. And now I realize I had a family all along. I just couldn't see it. Thomas's voice roughened. I spent 6 years protecting Caleb from a distance, telling myself it was the only way. But I was wrong. What do you mean? I mean I could have trusted him. Trusted that together we were stronger than apart. He shook his head. Instead, I let Ezekiel isolate me. Let him convince me that sacrifice was the only answer. You did what you thought was right. I did what was easiest. Thomas's correction was gentle but firm. Staying with Ezekiel, playing the faithful disciple, that was easier than facing my brother, easier than admitting I'd failed. You didn't fail. I killed people, Clara. Thomas's voice dropped. Not directly, but I helped, participated, stood by while Ezekiel destroyed lives. Under duress. Does that matter? In the end, Thomas looked at his hands. The people who died are still dead. The families that were shattered are still broken. My reasons don't change their suffering. Clara was quiet for a long moment. No, she said finally. They don't. But they change what happens next. What do you mean? I mean, you have a choice now. You can spend the rest of your life drowning in guilt, or you can use what you went through to help others. Clara's voice gentled. The hospital in Denver, the survivors who are still struggling, the people who need someone who understands. You think I can make a difference? I think you already have. Clara touched his arm. You saved us, Thomas. Caleb, me, Lily, we'd all be dead without you. That's not nothing. It doesn't feel like enough. It's never going to feel like enough. That's the price of survival. Clara met his eyes. But you keep going anyway. Keep trying to balance the scales. Not because you'll ever succeed, but because the trying is what matters. Thomas stared at her. How do you do it? Carry all that weight and still function. I have help. Clara glanced toward the barn, where Caleb's lantern was visible through the open door. I have people who remind me that I'm more than the worst thing that ever happened to me. And you think I can find that too? I think you already have. Clara touched his shoulder. You just have to let yourself believe it. She went inside, leaving Thomas alone with the stars and his thoughts. The wedding was small. Dawson officiated. He'd gotten ordained specifically for the occasion, and Martha stood as Clara's witness. Thomas stood for Caleb. Lily held the rings. Do you, Caleb McAllister, take this woman to be your wife? To have and to hold through good times and bad, for as long as you both shall live. Caleb's eyes never left Clara's face. I do. And do you, Clara Whitmore, take this man to be your husband, to have and to hold through good times and bad, for as long as you both shall live? Clara thought of everything that had brought her to this moment, the terror and the flight, the blood and the fire, the stranger who'd opened his door and changed her life. I do. Then by the power vested in me by the territory of Wyoming, I now pronounce you husband and wife." Dawson smiled. "You may kiss the bride." Caleb kissed her softly, reverently, like she was something precious. When they broke apart, Lily was tugging at Clara's dress. "Mama?" "Yes, baby." "Does this mean Mr. Caleb is my family now? For real?" Clara knelt, took her daughter's hands. "He's been your family for a while now. This just makes it official." "Official?" Lily tested the word. "I like that." "Yeah." Caleb crouched beside them. "What do you like about it?" "It means you can't leave." Lily's voice was small, but certain. "Official family stays." "Lily." Caleb's voice thickened. "I was never going to leave, ring or no ring." "I know, but now it's official." Lily nodded seriously. "And official is better." Clara laughed, pulling both of them into an embrace. "Official is definitely better." 1 year to the day after Clara and Lily had stumbled onto Caleb's land, they gathered on the porch to watch the sunset. Thomas had returned for a visit, his third since the wedding, and Martha and Dawson had ridden out from Silver Creek. "Hard to believe it's been a year," Dawson said, settling into a rocking chair. "Feels like yesterday, and forever ago at the same time." "A lot has changed," Clara agreed. "Everything has changed." Martha's voice was soft. "I barely recognize my life anymore." "Good changes." "Mostly." Martha smiled a real smile, the first Clara had seen from her that didn't carry shadows. "I'm helping at the church now, the real church in town, working with families who are struggling." "She's good at it," Dawson added, pride evident in his voice. "People trust her." "Because I understand." Martha's eyes found Clara's. "I know what it's like to be trapped, to feel like there's no way out, and I know what it feels like to be free." "That's a powerful gift. It's what you told Thomas, about using our pain to help others." Martha shook her head. "I didn't believe it at first, but you were right." Lily came running from the meadow, Daisy bouncing under her arm, a crown of wildflowers in her hair. "Mama, look what I made. It's beautiful, baby. I made one for everyone." Lily produced a handful of woven flowers. "Because today is special." "Why is today special?" Lily looked at her mother like she was being deliberately dense. "Because it's the day we became a family. The real day, not the wedding day that was just official." She pressed a crown into Clara's hands. "This is the day you knocked on Mr. Caleb's door, and everything started." Clara's throat closed. "You remember that?" "I remember everything." Lily's voice was solemn. "I remember being cold and scared. I remember Mama falling in the snow. I remember the door opening and Mr. Caleb standing there with his gun." "That's a lot to remember." "It's important." Lily distributed the remaining crowns, then settled on the porch steps, looking out at the land that had become home. "I want to remember all of it. The bad parts and the good parts. Because you can't have one without the other." Thomas leaned forward. "That's very wise for someone who's 9 years old." "I'll be 10 next month." Lily shot him a look. "And I've always been wise. Everyone says so." "Everyone's right." The sunset deepened, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and gold. Clara leaned into Caleb's side, his arm warm around her shoulders. "Happy," he murmured. "Terrified." "Of what?" "Of losing this." Clara's voice dropped. "I spent so long expecting disaster, waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's hard to believe this is real, that it's going to last." Caleb turned her to face him. "Listen to me. Whatever happens tomorrow, next year, 10 years from now, we face it together. That's what family means. That's what this means. And if the past comes back, if someone from the covenant, then we deal with it, together." Caleb's voice was firm. "I spent 6 years hiding from my ghosts, running from my past. All it got me was loneliness and regret. What's different now? You, Lily, Thomas. Caleb smiled. I have something worth fighting for. Something worth protecting. His voice softened. Something worth living for. Clara kissed him slow and sweet, not caring that they had an audience. When she pulled back, Lily was watching them with a knowing smile. Told you, the child said simply. Told me what? That first night. I told you Mr. Caleb was going to be important. Lily's eyes sparkled. I'm always right about the important things. Yes. Clara pulled her daughter close, breathing in the scent of wildflowers and sunshine. You really are. The stars came out one by one, familiar now in a way they'd never been before. Clara looked around at the people gathered on the porch, her husband, her daughter, her brother-in-law, her friends. People who'd been strangers a year ago. People who'd become family through fire and fear and impossible hope. She thought of Samuel, buried in a grave back east, never knowing the life his daughter would build. She thought of Ezekiel, dead in the ashes of his church, his empire of lies burned to nothing. She thought of herself the woman she'd been a year ago, bleeding and desperate, and ready to do anything to save her child. Mama, Lily's voice was sleepy now. What are you thinking about? The future. What about it? Clara looked at Caleb, at Thomas, at Martha, and Dawson at the farmhouse that had become their sanctuary. I'm thinking, she said slowly, that for the first time in a very long time, I'm not afraid of it. Good. Lily yawned, burrowing closer. Because the future is going to be beautiful. I've seen it. Have you? Lily's eyes drifted closed. There's a garden, and horses, and a baby. She was asleep before she could finish. Clara's breath caught. She looked at Caleb, found him watching her with wide eyes. Did she just say, I think she did? But we haven't even... I know. They stared at each other, shock giving way to wonder, giving way to something that felt like joy. Well, Caleb's voice was rough. Guess we have something to look forward to. Guess we do. Clara settled back against her husband, her sleeping daughter in her arms. Her impossible family gathered around her. A year ago, she'd been running for her life, bleeding in the snow, praying for a miracle she no longer believed in. Now she was home. Not the home she'd imagined, not the life she'd planned, but something better, something real, something built from the ashes of everything she'd lost with people she'd never expected to find. Clara closed her eyes, listening to the sounds of her family. Dawson's quiet conversation with Thomas. Martha's soft laughter. Caleb's steady heartbeat beneath her ear. Lily's peaceful breathing. She'd spent so long being afraid. Of Ezekiel. Of the future. Of hoping for things she didn't deserve. But fear hadn't saved her. Hope had. Hope and a stubborn cowboy who'd opened his door to strangers. Hope and a daughter who saw the truth when everyone else was blind. Hope and the courage to fight for something worth having. Clara Whitmore McAllister opened her eyes to the star-filled sky and smiled. She was done running, done hiding, done being afraid. She was home, she was loved, and she was never letting go. And that she knew with absolute certainty was exactly where her story was meant to end, and where the rest of her life was finally ready to begin.